Hello my dear students, welcome you all to this English class. So dear students, in our previous class we studied the part 2 of the story, the first step, okay. So today we will have the third part of the same story. So before going today's topic, let us recall the recap of part 2. See, the new owner named Mrs. Mohan arrived at the big house. She was slim, grey-haired lady dressed in a spotless white sari. Chelipa told her about Ammu, that Ammu would work for her at the big house. The next morning, Ammu went to the big house. Ammu washed some vessels kept in the sink, then went to the drawing room for dusting. There she saw a bookcase which drew her like a magnet. She fingered the books lovingly. She was interested to be educated. Next, Mrs. Mohan saw what Ammu was doing, but she pretended as she noticed nothing. She asked Ammu about her family. She told about Chini and also told that her father would send him to school from the coming week. When Mrs. Mohan asked about Ammu, she replied without showing any emotion that her father told that there was no use of education for her as she was a girl. And he also told her that if Chini was educated, that would help him to get a job. Then Ammu went away from the place as she tried to hide her tears or hide her emotions. Okay. So let's see our today's topic, that is part 3. Okay. See, Mrs. Mohan realized that she had to get through to Ammu somehow. Perhaps she could start a small school for unfortunate girls like Ammu. She mused. Then the big house would resound with children's laughter. Mrs. Mohan went to the kitchen and set aside food for Ammu. She then ate the simple lunch she had cooked. Have your lunch first and then do these dishes. Come to the drawing room after you finish, she said. Ammu was taken aback by her employer's kind ways. It had been quite some time since someone had spoken kindly to her. Ammu, you must go to school. Ask your father not to worry about money. Girls should also go to school. Tell your father that I shall pay your fees, Mrs. Mohan said gently. Next. No, Ammu began crying. My father will never agree. He will. I spoke to him yesterday about it, Mrs. Mohan said, wiping Ammu's tears. But then who will work for you? Who will cook for my father and brother? Ammu asked seriously. Then I have another plan. I am a retired headmistress. I shall teach you every day. You come here after finishing your course and I shall teach you as long as you want. How do you like that? Mrs. Mohan asked. Next. Fine. Ammu's eyes shone. Well, shall we begin today itself? She begged. Of course, Mrs. Mohan laughed and began with the alphabet. An hour later, Ammu went home in a happy daze. She had taken the first step towards her goal. So dear students, this is all about the part 3. Okay, let's have some unfamiliar words or difficult words which you may come across while reading the part 3 of the first step. Okay, see? Realized, understood that something has happened. Get through, reach a desired outcome. Unfortunate, unlucky. Mused, thought carefully. Taken aback, surprised or shocked someone. Course, a routine or a boring task. Shone, glittered. Okay, actually shone is the past tense of shine. Daze, unable to think due to confusion. Okay, so this is all about the difficult words which you may come across while reading the part 3 story. Okay, so let's have the explanations of the part 3. See, Mrs. Mohan realized that she had to get through Ammu somehow. Mrs. Mohan realized that she had to help Ammu somehow. Perhaps she could start a small school for unfortunate girls like Ammu, she mused. Okay, Mrs. Mohan thought very carefully to start a small school for the unfortunate girls, for the unlucky girls or who is helpless like Ammu. Then the big house would resound with children's laughter. If Mrs. Mohan would start a small school for unfortunate girls, then the big house would resound with the children's laughter. Then Mrs. Mohan went to the kitchen and set aside food for Ammu. She then ate the simple lunch she had cooked. Okay, then what happened? Then Mrs. Mohan went to the kitchen and kept aside food for Ammu, and she ate the simple lunch she had cooked. Next, have you lunch first, then do these dishes. Come to the drawing room after you finish, she said. Who said? Mrs. Mohan said to Ammu to finish, or to first of all to have the lunch first, then clean all the dishes, then come to the or invited to the drawing room. See, Ammu was taken aback by her employer's kind ways. Ammu was taken aback means Ammu was very surprised. Ammu was very shocked by the employer's kind way, by Mrs. Mohan's kind behavior. It had been quite some time since someone had spoken kindly to her. Why Ammu was shocked? Ammu was shocked because that had been quite some time since someone had spoken her so kindly. Ammu, you must go to school. Ask your father not to worry about money. Who said? Mrs. Mohan said gently. Mrs. Mohan said very kindly that Ammu had to go to school and let her father inform not to worry about money. Why? Because girls should also go to school. Tell your father that I shall pay your fees. Okay. What happened? Then Mrs. Mohan told Ammu that girls should go to school, and also Ammu would tell her father that Mrs. Mohan would pay the education for Ammu. Okay. Next. No, Ammu began crying. My father will never agree. Okay. Ammu began crying and said that her father would never agree about the proposal what Mrs. Mohan gave her. He will. I spoke to him yesterday about it, Mrs. Mohan said, wiping Ammu's tear. Okay, wiping Ammu's tear, Mrs. Mohan said that he will means her father would. Okay, I spoke to him yesterday about him. Mrs. Mohan had spoken to her father about the proposal before to her father, with her father. But then who will work for you? Who will cook for my father and brother? Ammu asked seriously. Ammu asked seriously to Mrs. Mohan that then after that who would work for Mrs. Mohan, who would cook for her father and her brother. Then I have another plan. I am a retired headmistress. I shall teach you every day. You come here after finishing your course and I shall teach you as long as you want. How do you like that? Mrs. Mohan asked. What happened? Then Mrs. Mohan offered or told a new plan to Ammu that she was a retired headmistress and she told Ammu she would teach Ammu every day, and she told Ammu to come to the big house after she finished her household works. Then she would teach, Mrs. Mohan would teach Ammu as long as Ammu wanted. Then how do you like that? Mrs. Mohan asked. Okay, Mrs. Mohan asked very curiously to Ammu that how Ammu liked the plan. Fine, Ammu's eye shone. Well, shall we begin today itself? She begged. Ammu's eye glittered. Ammu was very much excited. Ammu was very happy. Then she begged before Mrs. Mohan that whether they would begin the begin the class the day itself. Of course, Mrs. Mohan laughed and began with the alphabet. Then Mrs. Mohan was agreed with Ammu and started alphabets with laughter. An hour later, Ammu went home in a happy daze. She had taken the first step towards her goal. An hour later, Ammu went to her home very happily. Then that day she had taken the first step towards her goal. Okay, so this is all about the part 3 of the story, the first step. Okay, dear students, I have a question. See, answer in a word or a phrase. What did Mrs. Mohan realize? Very good. Mrs. Mohan realized what? To get through to Ammu somehow. Okay, next. What did Mrs. Mohan muse? Very good. To start a small school for unfortunate girls. Like Ammu. Okay. Number 3 question. What did Mrs. Mohan eat? Very good. A simple lunch. Number 4. Why was Ammu taken away? Why was Ammu surprised? Very good. By her employer's kind way. Okay, next. What was Mrs. Mohan? Very good. Retired headmistress. Okay, next, see. What another plan did the retired headmistress make for Ammu? Very good. To teach Ammu means to teach her as long as she means Ammu wanted. Okay, next. What was Ammu's first step towards her goal? Very nice answer. Learning alphabet. Okay, next, number 8. Why did Ammu go home in happy daze? Very good, because she had taken the first step towards her goal. Okay, who wiped Ammu's tears? Very good, Mrs. Mohan. Last question. What did Ammu ask seriously? Very good. Who would work? Ammu asked what? Who would work for Mrs. Mohan? Mrs. Mohan, who would cook for her father and for her brother. Okay, so this is all about the question answer of this part. See, I have a quotation for you. Educate a girl child, give her way to be independent. Okay, so with this class, dear students, we have completed the first step of your English book. Thank you, my dear students. Bye bye.